Well, we
So
appreciate
excited
you
to have
being
you.
here.
Of course. Thank
We
y'all for
appreciate
having
what you're doing for R&B right now.
Facts.
You know, you out here moving and grooving. I know it's a lot of stuff you got going on right now. You just dropped a deluxe version of your album, The R&B You Love, the Soul in the 70s.
Yeah.
You just performed the NAACP Awards, the Image Awards. You just co-wrote 10 songs with Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of stuff we got to get into, but let's give them some background first of all. Like, how did you even get started composing, writing, singing, all of that? Give us some background on who you are.
Man, where does it start? So I'm from Watts, Jordan Downs Project.
West.
Born and raised. So,
Okay.
I come from a musical family. My mother, she's a singer. My father, musician, guitarist. Youngest of 7.
Mm-hmm.
They all do music, or can do music, I should say. 3 of us actively do music. So I kind of grew up like in that system of talent already.
Right.
But I didn't want to sing or do music because I'm the youngest and like everybody's doing this. I played like every sport possible.
You was trying to do something different.
Yeah, I had to feel like I was different. Only to come back to doing music. But like it's interesting now because if I wasn't doing music at all, I was like, I worked in education for a little bit, but my plan was to go to school, get a degree to be an English major. I specifically wanted to teach creative writing. So even when I was like in elementary school, I used to like enter and win these pep oratorical contests, like stuff all based on words and grammar and things like that, only for me to end up writing music. So essentially, I feel like I'm fulfilling both of, those passions. So, and then, writing, I still get to work in the education system and go and, kind of work with students and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's where it started. And Watts.
Where did that transition come when you stopped teaching and more so just getting into songwriting?
So senior year in high school, I think that was like pivotal for me. I went to Taft in the Valley, 9th and 10th grade, that was my introduction to the Valley. Like I'm from the hood, so
you went to school way out there. Yeah.
I got bused out to Taft. I got kicked out beginning of 11th grade, and I had to go to my home school, which was Washington.
Okay.
And so Washington actually is known for having like elite talent coming out of the school. But I wanted to go there as like a brand new person. I didn't want anybody to know I did music. Like I'm like, let's just come there and be regular.
Right, be brand new.
Somebody snitched on me that I knew and told one of our advisors that I could sing and like dance, and like she ended up making me perform at all of like the assemblies and like all type of stuff. And that like re-sparked my my love for her. She also failed me in algebra my first semester, but that's my dog, Miss Sands, man. It really, like literally, she's a big part of why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because she stayed on me. And that senior year really like sparked my interest to really get back in music and finding myself outside of the church, outside of my family and everything like that. So
now we need people like that to encourage us and keep us going. I know a lot of talented people that are just sitting in their rooms because they have nobody to encourage them, or they have nobody, believing in them or uplifting them to, do what they can and they know they can do. But speaking of church, like what are some of your musical influences besides your family?
Yeah.
You play instruments in church as well?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. I started on drums just like everybody.
Same, me too.
Started on drums.
Everybody starts on drums.
Yeah. And my brother, he plays everything. So when my brother moved from the drums, I started on drums. He moved to keys. He moved to organ. He started showing me how to play keys. So I could play a little bass. Like I feel like I relearn every time I pick it up because I'm not consistent with it. But I don't know what to call it. I've been trying to figure it out, but I feel like I have this gift of like quickly adapting to anything I'm presented with.
Yeah.
So I can learn how to play anything in like a quarter of the amount of time that it's supposed to take.
Average person.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like that's like a real thing. Like I've been trying to figure it out.
Some people have an affinity for certain things, and yours just is music. Yeah.
I literally feel like that's that's what it is for me. But my first influences were like my parents. I grew up Kojic. My parents were preachers. Like so, I couldn't listen to. I couldn't listen to anything. So. My dad's quartet singer, so I listen to a lot of like Jackson Southerners, Mighty Clouds of Joys, the Winans, Blind Boys of Alabama.
We was literally just having a conversation about 90s gospel before you walked in.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And on my mom's side, like still gospel, like but like Kirk Franklin, Hezekiah Walker, John P. Key. That Colorblind album is like the story of my childhood. Like I remember it vividly. Mary married Karen Clark, which is interesting because we didn't really grow up on the Clark sisters, but I grew up on Karen Clark. And it may be like an age thing because by that time, you know, she already had her solo stuff on. So when I got into R&B though, one of my first R&B influences was Tyrese, ironically, but also not ironic because we're both from Watts. And so he was one of the first physical R&B CDs I got was from him. My mom let me go to the park. Wow. He was there in the neighborhood doing something. And that was like the only time I ever remember her like letting me go and get something that was in church.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
Dawkins and Dawkins I have to shout out too, because I grew up on a lot of Dawkins and Dawkins, and I always say it's ironic because when I got into R&B, the artists I gravitated towards like Joe Thomas and like even, you know, like later, like Mario and I found out the Underdogs were producing all of their stuff, but Dawkins and Dawkins are part of that Underdogs pipeline. So
perfect sense.
Yes, I think early on my like taste was like developed. I was always like on the more radical side of listening to gospel music.
Yeah.
But, yeah, those are a lot of my influences. Anita Baker, I'm the hugest Anita Baker fan.
Same.
Like in the world.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, I just love classic love songs.
We were just having a conversation with our CEO Jabari and a couple other people about like how if Tank is like the general of R&B, then you're like one of the knights. Like you are one of those people who like every time we get on the timeline, you're like pushing the envelope about like R&B and how like alive and well it is. And that's like really, really beautiful to see.
I appreciate it. I think that's important. You need people like that. When you think about anything historical, you think about like activists and people who push just culture forward in any respect. I think that like art and the art that I participate in is no different. You need people who are like championing for it. So I feel like, you know, somebody got to do it.
Yeah. And speaking of Tyrese, I know one of the first times I ever saw your name was on that TGT record, Hurry.
Yeah.
So let's get into your songwriting bag. I know you got that. And look, when I started looking up your credits, I'm like, damn, Trolls, the movie Hidden Figures. I'm like, I didn't know it went that deep. Yeah. Let's talk about that and how all of that led to you now having 10 records on Justin Timberlake's album.
Man, so ironically, my first professional like writing credit ever was on Tyrese's Open Invitation album. It was a song called What Took You So Long.
Okay.
And at the time I was just singing. So I toured singing background for Tyrese for like 6-7 years. Maybe. Okay. And at one point, like I would be the only singer like traveling with him. So I was kind of like over all of the vocals and stuff that were happening. And so I was at his house for a session to sing. The actual writers didn't show up. They had no idea that I wrote. Well, they weren't there yet. Tyrese is very like, he doesn't care who it comes from. If he wants, he just wants something done. So he came in and was like, you know, the writers aren't here yet. Like, if y'all got any ideas, y'all want to hop in the booth, here's this track that I want to get done. And I hopped in the booth, laid down an idea. Me and my homegirl, Nika. And I hopped in the booth, laid down an idea. He came in, heard it, and was like, yo, y'all finish that. And that ended up being my first placement. And I ended up, after that.
And how old were you at that point, if you don't mind me asking?
I feel like I was like 23 or something. Like I was pretty young. That was my first placement. Then I did a lot of his Black Rose album. Yeah. And then in the interim, we were working on TGT stuff. I toured with TGT as well, but wrote a lot of songs on their album. All while I was like heavy in like the BGV game. So I've like toured and sang background for like everybody imaginable.
BGVs, for those who don't know.
Yeah, background vocals.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I be forgetting it's not like super
BGVs,
common.
Yeah.
So like I was like touring and singing with everybody possible. And so I ended up working with JT. And it's crazy because that seems to be my story with writing placements. Most of these artists I've worked with in a different capacity. Like I've written for Mary J. I've sang with her.
Yeah.
I've written for Tyrese.
Yeah.
Tank, Genuine. I toured singing with them. I've written for.
So you get to write for them and you go on the road with them as well.
And it's never on purpose. Faith Evans.
Yeah, it just happens.
I toured with Faith and then wrote for her later.
It's probably just how organic you are, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
R&B only.